morning one more time, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Corfu. How are you today? Yeah, beautiful weather. I was working on it all night long. That's why the black circle on my Anyway, let me introduce myself. My name is Zita. Z-I-T-A or Z-I-T-A, Zita. I'm going to be your guide for the next couple of hours. And we have a fantastic driver, ladies and gentlemen. So if you don't mind, please put your hands together for Stasi. Okay, and what he's saying, maybe some of you have heard, he was saying Kalimera. Kalimera is good morning in Greek. Kalimera. And the thing with Kalimera that you can use until 2:30. So yeah, together you are almost fully covered. Alright, so just use it. Be brave. Okay, so what we are going to do today is that we are going to make a big circle on the north part of the island, which means that, you see, ladies and gentlemen, now we are in the middle of the eastern coastline. And what we are going to do is that we are going to drive across the island, going to the western coastline. But before we reach Paleokastrica, and this is one word, we are going to go to a distillery. Because that's how you should start. Yeah, probably that is going to be so much easier to remember the name Paleokastrica. So what we are going to do in this distillery, that you are going to have the opportunity to try our traditional drink. That's how we call it. I'm sure that you know the fruit kumquat. Yes. The tiny orange. Now, rest of the world, they are making marmalade out of it. Yes, the Corfiots, that's how we call it. The Corfiots, thanks God, they started to do something else, liqueur. And this is what we consider as a traditional drink. So you are going to have the opportunity to try it, just like many other liqueurs that actually the same distillery is producing. And also you are going to see the fruit itself just at the entrance of the company's building. And then after the kumquat liqueur, as I mentioned, we are going to go to Paleokastrica, which is, I think, it's pretty much like a jewelry box of the island. I mean, Mother Nature was in a very good mood when she created Paleokastrica. It has 6 bigger bays surrounded by hills, and because today is so nice and sunny, I'm just mentioning it because in the last few days it was raining and it was a bit windy, and you can understand from my voice that yes, weather was a little bit different. But whenever it's sunny, the colors in Paleokastrica, they are just fantastic. There's so many different shades of the blue from the sky, from the sea, combining with the green and the grey of the coastline. We are going to have a photo stop there for about 20 minutes. And then we are going to go up to the, as we call, mountains, but actually they are just hills. And driving through a really nice traditional village, we are going to stop in a spot which offers beautiful view. They call that area actually Bella Vista, which means beautiful view. And over there you are going to have some snack as well. That's a bit of a tzatziki, a bit of an olive. I'm going to tell you when it's going to be about high time. And you are going to be offered some ouzo, yes, and some wine. Yeah, what can we do? And then we are coming back to the town, driving back to the eastern coastline. And we are going to go to the dam where we are going to have a short walk together. And then you are going to have some free time before we need to return to the port. Alright, so this is our program for today. I was thinking to tell you a few things about the island itself at the very beginning. Let's build a foundation for today. And then always about the spots where we are just heading. Definitely we are going to say a few things about the olive trees, about the olive oil and everything that it's worth mentioning about the olives. Maybe some tradition, custom, a little bit of a history, of course. Basically that's what I planned for today, and that's what we have time for, see? I also have to admit you something at the very, very beginning of our tour. I'm not Greek. You can tell. I'm from Hungary. I'm from Budapest, actually. But I've been living here over 13 years. Yes, I got married to Greek. And I've been working here over 19 years. This is my 19th summer, which means that I started when I was 8. Okay? Just, you know. So at some... just for the records. So at some point probably he's going to visit this Corfu. I think I just can't help it. So anyway, if you have any question, any problem, please let me know, and hopefully we can find a solution for that, or I can, or at least I hope that I will know the answer. All right. So as I mentioned, let's build a foundation. All right. First of all, where are we today? Now, if you try to imagine map of Europe, there is somewhere the Italian boot, right? Now, from the heel of the boot, if you go a little bit towards the south and you turn a bit towards the east, then you will find this tiny island under the name Corfu. In Greece, we are in the most northwestern corner of the country. Actually, Corfu is so much up in the north, in Greece, I mean, that half of Corfu Island, on its northeastern coastline, is facing to Albania, and only from the middle and its southeastern coastline is facing to the Greek mainland. Now, because in Greece there are over 700 of islands, they are all organized into certain groups because it's much easier to control them rather than individually. So Corfu is also a member of a so-called group of islands, the Ionian Islands. We are talking about 7 bigger islands. Let me just mention a few names, like the island of Cephalonia, which can be familiar to you actually if you have seen a movie that came out roughly 10-11 years ago with Nicolas Cage and Penelope Cruz, Captain Corelli's Mandolin.
Yes.
I don't know yet. Now that the whole story took place on Cephalonia, and they made the movie on Cephalonia. Or we can mention another island, the island of Ithaca, which belonged to one of the heroes of the Trojan War, and the hero's name is Odysseus, who was the king of Ithaca, and actually it was his idea, the Trojan horse, which put the end of this war. And we can mention a tiny, tiny island as well, the island of Scorpio, which belonged to the Onassis name for many, many decades, until I think it was either 4 or 5 years ago, when, you know, the grandmother who inherited this big wealth at the Onassis, she decided to sell it. So it doesn't belong anymore to the Onassis name and the Russian gentleman for it. So in this group we have our island, Corfu, which is the second biggest one after Cephalonia, which actually means that our island is a very, very small island. Usually I describe its shape as a triangle, which is upside down. The length of this triangle is about 60 kilometers, which I would say is roughly 42, 43 miles. Up in the north, actually what you can see up straight ahead where this big mountain is, that's the north part of Corfu Island. Over there, the width of Corfu is about 30 kilometers, which is, let's say, roughly 20 miles. And down in the south, it gets so narrow that in the southeast corner, it's a little bit more than 2 miles.
Wow.
Yeah. And we are, as I mentioned, we just left the Corfu town area, the port area, which is in the middle of the eastern coastline, and now we are heading towards the western coastline. If we wouldn't stop in the destination, probably we would need half an hour just to understand distance from the east to the west. All right. Now the population on the island is about 100,000 people. Out of the 100,000 people, about 40,000 lives in Corfu town, which is the only town that we have on the island, so we can say that it's the capital of the island. And of course it means that the rest, the majority, the 60,000 people, we live in smaller and bigger villages all over in the island. As far as I understood, it's a very, very small community. Almost everybody knows everybody and almost everybody knows everything, which has its advantages and it has its own challenges. For me, it was a really nice surprise, and I really enjoy even nowadays that wherever we go, there will be always somebody who tells you, good morning, how are you? And you feel that, oh my God, they really care, how are you today? It's very safe. Probably that's the biggest advantage. You can leave your car wherever you want to, even if you forget the key in it, or your scooter, your bike, even if you forget the key in it, it's going to stay there for days. Of course, your kids, they can play outside. You don't need to worry about them. Probably that's the biggest advantage. Although the driving mentality is a little bit different. you can change the line. And apparently it was a big... no, I thought that they might have an accident, but probably the car, this one just stops. So what I was saying, that it's very, very safe. And And whenever you need help, there will be always somebody at your door. Although sometimes that's exactly the challenge as well, because even when you don't need help, still there will be somebody at the door. But I think you really learn how to handle that from the very, very beginning of your staying. The main income that we have is from tourism. We can say that this is the #1 industry on the island, which actually has two big parts. We open, let's say, we start a season in the middle of March with the cruises, and we end the season at the end of December with the cruises. Of course, in the first month and in the last month, we don't have ships every day. Once a week, which is nice and relaxing. But from the middle of April until this season, for example, until the first 10 days of November, we have ships on a daily basis. There are days when we have one ship, there are days when we have two, and there are days when we have 2, 3, 4, 5. And actually last week, it was our record day, because we had 8 ships in the port last Tuesday. Thanks God we have only one day like that in every season. But in those days, you wake up in the morning, you take a deep breath, maybe you run to a distillery, and then you go to work. Anyway, so those days are quite difficult. I think that whenever we have actually more than 4 ships, I think 4 ships we can handle the situation, but whenever we have more than 4 ships, those days are a little bit difficult because space is limited. I mean, it's a small island with small roads, small places to visit, the museums. I mean, how many people they can actually house in a time. And the thing with the cruise is that everybody arrives mainly in the same time and leaves at the same time, so everybody visits certain places exactly in the same time. All right. And the other part of the incoming tourism is all the people that they come here for a vacation of a week or 2, or as long as they want. We have direct connection with most of the airports in Europe. So we have direct flights, and we have also a non-European country that we receive quite a big, massive number of tourists in the last 6-7 years, and that's Russia. Right, and that's right. Maybe you have noticed already at some point we have fur shops along the road. We don't need furs in the winter, it never gets too cold, but that's mainly because of the Russian tourism. Just on your right. Yeah, right.
Makes sense.
So that's about the tourism that they are spending here a holiday. Usually from the beginning of April we receive the first planes, and until the middle of October we still have, I mean, it's quite busy. Just to know the volume, while in the winter time we have about 3 planes per day, Athens, Corfu, Athens, domestic flights. In the summer season we have average 80 planes per day, 0 per day, so it's a really massive number. We approximately we have about 1 million tourists visiting the island in a season, which is of course a very, very big number. Alright, except tourism, we have a little bit of agriculture, and actually until the late 60s, early 70s, the island was mainly an island that earned the money, they had income from the land. Olives or any other kind of fruits, vegetables, whatever they could sell on the local market or in the local supermarket chains. But what happened that in the late 60s, early 70s, the tour operators, at first actually we have to mention from the UK they started this massive tourism, organizing the so-called tourist packages, and it went so well apparently that within a decade it changed the profile of Corfu, and from a clear agriculture island it became a tourist destination. And even that nowadays we have still agriculture, it's only on the 2nd position, and mainly it's on the south part of the island. And of course we have to mention fishing, which is almost a must on an island. Its main period, the winter time, so whoever can work as a fisherman in the winter will be able to work in the summer, definitely in tourism. So they belong to the minority, unfortunately, that they can work all year round. The rest of us, we can work only in the summer season. Alright? The climate, I think it's really, really pleasant. I mean, what we have today, or nowadays, the weather that it's been a little bit silly. I mean, you can't really predict what it's going to be. It's quite normal this time of the year that we have really warm days, and on the other day it might be raining, but it's still very pleasant that the sea is still very warm. Until the end of October you can easily swim. I mean, it's really nice and clear, the Ionian Sea. And then November, December, slowly it cools down. We had more rainy days and less sunny days. I would say the most unpleasant period on the island is January, February, March, because it's really rainy. I mean, those days we have almost everyday rain. Not all day, but almost every day. And then from April it gets a little bit warmer, we have more sunny days, less rainy days, and usually from May until this September we don't have rain at all. The temperature can go up to 35, 40 Celsius, 110 Fahrenheit, so it gets really warm. The only thing that can change the feeling, I mean the heat, is humidity. Because there are days when it's like only 55%, but there are days when it's like 85%. You know, those sticky days. But apparently it's very good for the lush. I mean, that's why we left, you know, the suburb behind, and we can see more the countryside. We are pretty much in the middle of the island right now. And you can see this incredible green color. It's a permanent color of the island. We have also this green carpet or green blanket. The majority of these trees, they are the olive trees. We have over 4 million trees on the island, and this is a very small island, so it means that wherever we are, there are olive trees around us. We have cypress trees, also big number, over 2 million. You know, if you take a look now to the right or to the left, you see those tall trees like pansies, dark green straight trees. Those are the cypress trees. And you know what they say about those trees, the locals? That there are two types. The one which is really thin, straight and tall, that's the male one. And the other one which is not that thin and not that tall, yes, that's the female one, which I find pretty unfair. And usually there is a boy and 2-3 girls around. I don't even comment this. And then we have in every single garden olive trees, orange trees, lemon trees. The kumquat cultivation is mainly on the north part of the island. For example, the company that we are just going, they have their land up in the north part of the island. And I think personally that whatever you start to cultivate, whatever you plant, you are going to have success. I mean, probably it's the climate, the soil, but everything grows huge, really.
I don't know, actually.
As I mentioned, in the winter period, it's really rainy, but it never gets really cold. We never have snow, for example. Although, if I want to be honest with you, last year, no, 2 years ago, it was snowing for 15 minutes. Yes, we had to go with that. But the children, they were so happy because for most of them, that was the first time in their entire life that actually they could experience the snow. Of course, it didn't say we couldn't do much with that, but at least they've seen, they could experience, they could feel the snow. Just one more thought. The 95% of the locals, they belong to the Greek Orthodox Church. We have over 800 churches on the island. There is a small Roman Catholic congregation with about 4,000 people, with 4 churches. We have 1 synagogue, and there are about 50 people belonging to it. And because there are many people from the UK that they settled down here on the island, roughly 3,500. They say there is also an English church, an Anglican church in the town. All right, so that's what I would say at first place about our island. I think that we mentioned the main issues, the first probably a few things that it's worth mentioning. And in about 2 minutes we are going to reach this kumquat distillery. I also have to mention that it's going to be, there's going to be a very good opportunity to use the facilities, which is always a very significant part of any excursion, all right? So after we are invited to the bar to try all of the drinks that actually they are producing, and you are going to have also some free time to look around in case you want to get anything as a souvenir. You are very welcome to do that. But before we leave, probably it's a good idea that whoever needs to go to the restroom, all right? Roughly we are going to spend here, well, I would say 25-30 minutes. We see how busy the place is, if there are any other buses, or we are going to be the only one. It all matters. All right, and from here, just remember, the next stop is going to be in Paleokasita, which is a 20 minutes drive from here, 15-20 minutes of drive from here, and over there we are going to have 20 minutes of break, mainly for photos. I couldn't believe Oh, I can't believe my eyes. We are going to be the only bus.
Good.
Wow, thanks very much for coming down so fast. All right, so Stathis is going to drop us off right at the entrance of the building. You see left and right, you can see the kumquat trees. Usually we harvest them in...
Good morning first for everyone. Kalimera.
Kalimera.
Just a few moments of your time to show you first all the different products, and then you can taste anything you like of the drinks. We will start with the local oranges. These are the kumquats. The kumquats are actually small Chinese oranges, but they cultivate them here in Corfu since 1860. And the meaning of the word kumquat is golden mandarin. From the same fruit now, we make two liqueurs, orange color from the skin of the fruit and yellow color from the juice. Both as liqueurs are sweetening base, 20% alcohol. If you like, you can also mix them for long drinks with orange juice, lemonade, vodka with prosecco. In the orange one now, you can find on the shelves a lighter version with a white label, 15%, and a special edition in 25. So these are all the liqueurs, and there are also sweets from the kumquat oranges, candied fruits, sweets in syrup or marmalade, and here are sweets with liqueur together. So these are all the products from the kumquat oranges. Other sweets now, locally made as well, are the almonds with caramel sugar, mandorla, mandorlato, which is like nougat, lucumi, soft like jellies with icing sugar in different flavors, pastelli, sesame seed with local honey, fig pie is a dry fish with a mix of spices, a little piquant. This is nice with cheese, with prosciutto, in green salad. There are also cookies with kumquat and chocolate, and baklava. These are all the local products. Of course, if you like to taste, there are also other flavors in liqueurs. Limoncello, lemon liqueur, cherry brandy and coffee flavor. And of course, the ouzo, aniseed flavor, 40%. So these are all the products. Thank you very much. Stay down here. We will give you first a taste, one of each of the local liqueurs, the kumquats. And anything else you like, you can also taste from the other drinks, okay? Thank you.
So I was packaging everything. If you put it on the top of this Greek yogurt, it's so delicious. It's a very nice dessert, actually. Okay.
That's what I thought.
So we are going to carry on. And our next stop is going to be Baleo Castrita. It's a very long word. But as I mentioned, I'm not from here. And when I first came here, I couldn't speak any Greek. I had no idea how Greeks sound. No, I was talking to everybody in English, and most of the people, they do speak in English, and especially the younger generation, that they work in tourism. It's almost like a must. But to remember all these weird names, well, I had a bit of a hard time at the very beginning. And then my friends, they told me that, you know what, actually Palaukasica has a meaning. And I think that once you know the meaning, it's easier to remember, actually. So Palaukasica contains two words, Paleo and Castrica. Paleo, it means old. And actually this particular word can be familiar to you from words like paleontology, paleolithic, which refers something prehistoric, so really, really old. And Castrica is from the word castro, which means fortress. Right? So Paleo Castrica means old fortress. And of course it tells us by itself that at some point in history, probably there was a fortress. There was a fortress in Paleo Castrica. Now it's pretty much the #1 tourist destination on the island. If not everybody stays in Paleo Castrita, but everybody's going to visit Paleo Castrita at least once. As I mentioned, I think it's pretty much like a jewelry box. 6 bigger bays surrounded by hills. It's an amazing combination of different colors. There's so many different shades of the blue. On top of one of those hills, there is actually a monastery where they say that the very, very first church actually was built in the early 13th century. Now the current complex, which is still an active monastery, it's from the late 18th century. But there is a story from Greek mythology. You see, it's very difficult to do a tour in Greece without telling you some names from ancient Greece, from gods and goddesses and stories, myths. But this story actually has something to do with Paleo Castrita. So that's why usually I always touch the people. And the particular myth starts part where the war in Troy ended, there were so many heroes participating in this war, like Achilles, who actually died there, like Hector, he also died there, Paris, and there was this woman, Helen of Troy. It was all her fault to see what happened. And then, of course, there was Odysseus, who was the king of Ithaca. And as I mentioned, that it was his idea, the Trojan horse, which actually put an end of this 10-year war. So after the war, he became a really rich man. He had so many weapons and jewelries, and he decided to return to his home island, to Ithaca, which is south of Corfu. He also planned that he would stop time after time to get some fresh water and something to eat. And one of his stops actually was on an island. He embarked on his boat, he downloaded all the things that he wanted to exchange for the food and for the sweet water, like wine, like jewelry, like weapons. And he started discovering the place. And actually he found the cave. And the cave was full of sheep and goats. He was trying to find where the owner was, to arrange the business, but he couldn't find anybody. It's not very nice, but they started to take most of the sheep and goats up to the boat. And that was a minute when the owner got there, who was a giant, with one single eye in the middle of his forehead. Seemed he was a cyclops. Now, when he saw what was going on with all his sheep and goats, he got a little bit upset. And he started to kill Odysseus' sailors, which was a big problem for our hero, because he needed his men on his ships, you see. But being a very, very clever man, he found a way how to save his people's lives, how to take most of those animals onto his ships, but it meant that he needed to put out the single eye of the giant. Now, what he didn't think of is that the father of the giant was Poseidon, the god of the sea. And when he figured out what happened to his son, he got so angry that he said to Odysseus that if it's up to me, my friend, you are never going to return to your family. So that's why Odysseus, he needed to face with sea monsters, with thunders and storms. And last time that he was shipwrecked, actually, he was washed ashore somewhere here close to the coastline of Padaucastrica. Oh yes, back then it was a beautiful palace where the local king, King Alkinos, used to live. King Alkinos had also a daughter, the local princess, Nausicaa. Nausicaa went down to the beach to wash her clothes, and while the clothes were drying, she was singing with her friends. And that was a noise what Odysseus could hear from a distance, so he was only following the songs, and that's how actually he found the girls. And Nausicaa, the local princess, decided to take home this stranger to her father's palace. And when King Alkinos figured out the identity of his guest, he decided to help Odysseus. So what King Alkinos did is that he gave a boat to Odysseus, and with that boat, Odysseus could return to his home island, to Ithaca. But as the local version goes on, while this boat was returning from Ithaca back to Paleocaseta, somehow Poseidon found out what happened, that the local king had to his enemy, to Odysseus. So Poseidon became really angry. And you know what he did? He turned into stone this boat, which was returning from Ithaca back to Paleocaseta. And what a coincidence, we are going to see this petrified boat here in the coastline of Paleocaseta. To be honest, I think you have to use a little bit of your imagination, though. And I'm really so grateful for this camphor liqueur. Not mentioning the ouzo, which has 40% of alcohol. So I'm going to show you the rock, which is considered as the petrified boat. And let's pretend that actually it has a shape as a petrified boat. So I would say all this natural beauty, the man-made beauty, and all this story from Greek mythology made Paleocaseta so popular as it is nowadays. But you see, it can be really busy in the summer period, especially the last week of July and the whole August, which is the peak in the tourist season. Paleocaseta is just packed, crowded. But if you come here in November, December, we are not going to see a single soul, not even a car, nothing. Because... That's okay. Because here everybody is working, it's only about the season. Nobody lives here in the winter. There are no schools, churches where you can go in the Sunday. No shops that they will be open for all year round. So whenever the season is closed, everybody moves back to the town, Corfu town, which is the absolute center of the winter life, or they are going to move back to their villages. And the villages, they are never located down on the beach. You see, in older time people, they never wanted to live down on the beach. It was not safe living on an island, but that they needed to be around what comes from the sea. Because maybe the ships that they were approaching the island, they were bringing here peaceful traders, but maybe not. So it was not very clever to have your house down here. Plus, that everybody earned money from the land. So whoever had a bit of a savings, they were trying to buy a piece of land with good soil. Because they wanted to plant something, they wanted to cultivate something. The soil down in the beach is useless. You can't have anything down there. Nothing. So this thing changed. Look at this beautiful view, huh? This thing changed with the tourism because, of course, the hotel companies, when they were trying to find a good spot, they wanted to have a land down on the beach. This is where they wanted to build the hotels. So that's how the first hotels, they were built down to the coastline and around the hotels, other facilities like tavernas, bars, souvenir shops, rental companies, they were open, and all these resorts, seaside resorts, they were born. But in the summer, even that came up absolutely crowded. In the winter, everybody goes back to the normal life, near to a school and near to big supermarkets. And at least we have a chance to see an olive tree here right next to us. Yeah. And on the left, both sides on this huge highway, it's very, very easy to recognize an olive tree, especially if you see the tree trunk, because the trunk is full of holes. And here we can actually see even some of the olives, and we can see that the color of the leaves is not that green, it's a bit more grayish or silverish. So even if we can't see the tree trunk, it's still very easy to recognize an olive tree. And just to know that after Palau Kasita break, we are going to go up to the hill. You see all those houses on the slope of the hill?
Yep.
Now it's going to be on your left. Right? So this is going to be our next stop.
Wow. Be a good view.
The view from up there is just breathtaking. And especially when it's so clear, the weather. The good thing that after bad weather, because of the rain and the wind, it clears out and it's just really fantastic. So what we are going to do in Palau Kasita is pretty much, you know, a 20 minutes of break to stretch our legs, if you want to have an ice cream, a coffee, some photos, and then we are going to be back on the coach and driving up to the hill where we are going to have our snacks, alright, or as they call it in Greek, meze. Up there in the place which offers this snack, we are going to spend roughly 30-40 minutes, alright, so it's going to be a little bit like a longer break. And after that, we are going to drive back to the town, alright, just to know what still we have ahead. And of course, being in the middle of October, it is toward, you know, the period when everything gets a little bit calmer, everybody's a bit more relaxed, not that crowded. Now if you take a look to the left, you can see the biggest bay. Oh. This bay, it is called Alipa. It has a heart shape really, and we are going to see it when we are going to be up there in Bella Vista. It gives home also to the port of Palau Kasita. But as we are driving along, the back on the horizon, can you see that lonely rock?
Yes.
Don't you think? It looks like a ship, unbelievable. I know, that's the petrified ship. Yeah. Oh.
It kind of does, actually.
It does. I think it does.
Yeah, you can see the whole ship, that's my purpose. And of course, being on the western coastline, it means that somewhere in the far end is Italy, right? We can't see just too far, just to, you know, orientation. And of course, being on the western coastline, it means that you can enjoy from here the sunset. But I truly believe, and this is really my personal opinion, is that Palokasica is really the best place to discover from the sea, which means that if you come here and you have a whole day and you can forget about time and everything, the best thing you can do here is to rent a boat, you know, a motorboat, a speedboat, and just to visit all these bays, because except that there are 6 bigger bays, there are about 15, 16 smaller beaches where you have access only from the sea. So it's really, really a unique experience to discover them, you know, in your own rhythm, in your own way. Alright, and now we are going to reach the big parking. There we are going to stop, so he's going to drop us off, he's going to park. Look at this beautiful bay here on the left. It's the biggest beach in the area. It is called Saint Spiridon. We are going to mention this name later on, since he's a veteran saint of the island. And you see, as we were driving, we passed on the right a couple of cafes, but you can see there's another one here just next to the Saint Spiridon base, where you can have a coffee, you can have an ice cream, you can have many kind of refreshments as you want. Alright.
You're not.
Wherever you are on the island, and we have so many different beaches. At some point it's sandy, somewhere else has pebbles or rocks, so whatever you are looking for, and it's all driving distance. I mean, within 20-30 minutes you can be in different spots. So here I think it's really the best thing you can do. First of all, I always believe that to go in an all-inclusive hotel in Greece is not really a good thing, because Greece you need to discover. You have to rent a car, it's brave, and to discover the places, and to sit in a nice Greek taverna and have lunch and have dinner. Enjoy the company of the locals. I mean, sometimes they are very loud. Most of the time they are very loud. But they are just talking. I mean, that was one of the reasons that I wanted to learn so badly Greek, because I wanted to know what the hell they can talk about all day long. I mean, such a big passion. So yes, and I made it. But they are so open-hearted people, really, really good people. Now on the right, look at this beautiful view. This is the heart-shaped base. So when we are going to be up there enjoying our snack and the ouzo, just try to find which is the heart-shaped base. You don't need fantasy for this. It's clearly really a heart. And the petrified boat. Petrified. That's another story. And just imagine that you had a beautiful day down on the beach. Maybe you rented your own boat. Now you are sitting in the taverna, having a nice Greek meal, sipping some Greek wine and watching sunset.
I'm just pointing and shooting. Usually when I get the best ones. Yeah, you're all seen.
There's a few places we can do that. The Caymans. Remember, where's that place we went with the kids recently? 7 Mile Beach. That place we just went with the kids. Yeah. Dominican. Oh, God. It's so hard to find a rock. Yeah, but, well, I don't know. I've walked a long ways and think that
Might get somewhere to go.
yeah,
You
they
can't
say
shake that a
but I don't
bit.
think the back of this one.
That's all you need.
What a beautiful way to live. Just working somewhere.
You see here in Palaukas, it's actually, there are 2 bigger hotels. One is just on top of the hill, straight ahead. And the other one, as we are going to turn to the right, it's going to be again straight ahead. Surprisingly, they are not down on the beach, right? They are a little bit far from the sea. So here, I think Palaukasitsa is the best. What you can do is to rent maybe a villa, which is down on the beach, and I think that's one of the nicest thing that you can do, just to have your holiday in a nice seaside villa where you can step into the sea, really straight ahead.
How much do you think we earn? How much does she think we earn? Our villa on the beach for the weekend.
Oh, it's probably peanuts.
Grapes.
And soon, on our right, within the next few seconds, we are going to have, I think, one of the nicest views what Palaukasitsa can offer. Just look at that here. The rocks, the nice beach just opposite. And you know what? Down here there is a smaller bay, and there is also a cave. And in the daytime they have this jetty which is floating on the sea. They put sunbeds, umbrellas, and in the nighttime they with all these lights they open the bar in this cave. And it's so fantastic. Just let me tell you a story, really just to laugh a little bit. Is that when I started to date my husband, who is from Corfu, he told me that I'm going to take you one of the nicest places on the island. So we came here, we walked down 170 steps to sit down in that bar. We ordered a drink, and then we had this huge argument. I think it was maybe within 3 seconds. I can't remember what was the argument for, although I'm pretty sure that it was his fault. Anyway, so we just walked up the 170 steps, and that was it. Well, we didn't even have our drink, but it's a very nice, very nice place. So I can only recommend you. Although I think it's much better to come here by road, actually. Alright, so this is La Grotta, as they call it. And I don't know if you're a James Bond fan, actually.
Yep.
There is a James Bond movie that came out in 1984, 4 Your Eyes Only, with Roger Moore. Played Roger Moore 007. You know that film was filmed here on the island. Yeah, there are many, many spots. I mean, today we are going to see the town and we've seen this area. But if you have the opportunity to watch this film again, you might recognize spots actually from the town. Alright, or if you come back to Corfu and you are going to visit other parts of the island, would be the whole film probably is going to be very, very familiar to you. Alright, so that's about Palaukasitsa. And now we are going to go to Lakonet. This is the name of the village where we are going to drive through. And that village is going to be a good sample for an old traditional Corfiot village. Not down on the beach, but with a very good view towards the sea. So there was always somebody who would keep an eye on the horizon, watching the coastline, watching all those ships that they were approaching the island. You know, figure out if they are peaceful traders or not so peaceful traders. Right, so here we are going to turn to the left.
Here we are.
There's this huge fig tree, which was full in August. You know, fig we have all around the island. And it's nothing better than to get one from the neighbor's garden. It's always tastier. And then, as we are driving uphill, and we are going to reach the village. Well, first of all, the road is really twisty. There are lots of bends and curves. We are going to see all along the road olive trees, smaller and bigger ones. And as we are driving uphill, you might have a question. I mean, how they built their houses right up here a couple of hundred years ago? No roads. Maybe they had donkeys, you know, to carry certain things. Of course, like everywhere else in the world, in older times, people, they were so closer to the environment, to nature. They knew what they could use from the nature in order to build a house. Like, for example, the olive tree. I mean, look at the trunks. What can you do with this shape? Nothing, just burn on the fireplace. And this is what we are using, actually, the wood from the olive tree. So it's not something that you can use during a construction. But cypress tree, which is so tall, straight, and the wood is really good. It's a perfect material, even nowadays, whenever we build the roofs. for example. And it has, of course, another big advantage. It smells so nice. You enter home and you smell this cypress. It's really nice. And of course, the stones, the stand, everything people they could use. First of all, even the choice where they started to build their houses, it was a crucial thing because you needed sweet water. There is no life if there is no water. So wherever we have all those traditional villages, you can be sure that actually there is a spring around. And Corfu is really rich in springs, wells, and sea waters. And just like the men of the village, they knew how to build a house, the women in the village, they knew what they can eat from the environment, which wild weeds they can eat, when they need to collect, how they needed to cook it, which are the plants that they have also medical use as well. They can actually, use as medical treatment. Like even oregano, which is a very important herb or plant in the Mediterranean cuisine. You know, if you just boil the dried leaves as oregano, it's very good if you have stomach pain. So everything has also a medical use. And of course the ladies, they knew when they needed to collect them and they needed to harvest them. Nowadays life in the village, well, it didn't change much in the last few hundred years. I mean, what I told you at the very beginning, that Corfu's population is like one big family, almost everybody knows everybody, and everybody knows everything. But this in the village is really like that. Over there, everybody knows everybody. Almost everybody is related to everybody in a way, you know, first cousin, second cousin, or 22nd cousin. And always in the center of the village life is the place where the village people they can gather, and this is the cafenio, the coffee shop. Mainly the man population goes in the morning hours. Hardly you will see any woman, not because it's not allowed, but it's really not a point going there. I've been there a couple of times with my husband at the very beginning. But you know what happens in the cafenio? First of all, there is never one man who speaks at the time, but at least five. And as we mentioned, they actually don't speak, they're pretty much shouting. And most of them, they are smokers, so there would be a big chance having a cigarette in one hand and also making big movements with the hand. So it's shouting in the smoke. So that's why we don't go there, because we want to be listened again and again and again. So we just leave the man going there, save the world, and then we return.
Wow.
Look at the view, huh? Yeah. But we are going to get a little bit higher.
Oh, wow.
Gonna get hot.
Yeah. And probably it's good to know that this road is one way for buses. Okay. Yeah. It's always it's a good information, I know.
Yeah. She would be, I
On a plane.
like, she would like this.
Anybody who wants to drive?
Honey.
Imagine the honey ran.
And probably I'm not the only one who, before actually arriving to Greece, had this idea about, Greece. White houses, blue shutters. That's how I imagined. And then I got here, no blue, no white, nothing. And they're very different. Now here the local colors. They are this peach, the yellowish.
What I'm more concerned about
We have some white houses, terracotta, these colors here. And usually the color that combines those colors is the green. Green fences, green shutters, green doors, green entrances. So those are the Corfield colors. And the reason, the explanation we are going to find in history, that we are going to say a few words after the snack stop while driving towards Corfu town.
That'll wake you up.
Oh, I just like
That'll wake you up.
I loved it. Ooh, Alpha Wars.
I can hear you guys wrestling over there.
I'm so happy for you that today the weather is just so fantastic.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Thank you very much. That's okay. You're welcome. after this snack break, we are going to say a few things about the olive trees as well. I mean, by now you have seen a couple of trees, so probably you can recognize them. You have seen those black nets. You might have a question what those black nets for. And yeah, I'm going to explain
Catching the olives.
everything I can and everything I know about the olives.
Come around the bottom and shake them.
The snack. We are going to drive back to the town about 50 minutes, so we are going to spend so much time on the bus. We have still a lot of things to say.
You don't think it is?
Look at these beautiful, huge olive trees down here on the right.
You don't think it's the one way? Up in the one way now?
I don't, but
Okay.
no, we'll ask you, let me know.
And what you can see on the right is the southwestern coastline of Corfu. And the petrified boat, of course.
I like the boat. Yeah, because I like the side. It's always been one of my favorites.
Everything's some terrace.
Yes.
With all the stones that makes it flat down the hills.
Half of the bus. It is.
Imagine if you use the side stone.
Just
Want the bus to drive down? It's one long walk down.
Oh, very long.
You know, whenever the sea is so nice and calm, like today, the locals, they say that the sea is like the oil. You know, because it's like having an oil on the surface that just smooths everything down. Alright, and slowly we are actually reaching the village of Lacones, because the road that takes us through the main road of the village is really narrow. There are two traffic lights at the end, two ends of the main road, which I've seen already that it's red, but hopefully it's not going to be the very beginning of the whole waiting time, which is 7.5 minutes. Probably the only traffic light in the universe with 7.5 minutes as total waiting time.
We're building a house up here.
Did you guys see that?
Holy freaking building.
Did you guys see that?
I don't remember.
He's asking him.
I saw it.
Huh?
Yes.
He's asking him.
There is a big truck in the middle of the main street, which blocked a little bit the road.
Building a
Yeah,
house.
he said just trying to call him,
I do.
God,
not
look
starting
at
to wait for us to pass. That's how life goes here, up in the village.
Yeah, I know.
that. Beautiful.
And again here, a big tree, yes.
I think we're halfway.
What do you think about the view? Isn't it breathtaking? And you know, it doesn't matter how many times, we were just saying with Stathis, with the
It's like
driver, that
oil.
apparently we've seen it a couple of times. You just can't really get bored with it. It's beautiful, beautiful. By waking up and seeing this view, I know. Or watching the sun setting.
That makes me miss home.
I didn't know it.
Oh gosh, I got a long road ahead of me.
Weeks though, not months. Definitely weeks. I mean, it's switch to us. But he goes, you know what I have? I said, no, it's too much.
Houses. Actually, they were built in the late 15th century. So that was the first time that there was a village up here on this slope of this hill. And we will be able to see some other houses from this period, but built like 150 years ago. The really old houses, they are the ones that they have a really nice entrance, usually like an arch, right? And except that there is this main road, if you take a look to the left and to the right, you can see all the narrow streets that they are, you know, going to the village, and they make it like a labyrinth. Actually, here there's a very nice old house on the right with this beautiful entrance. And always in the village life where the cafe Neo is.
That's not the old.
You see, it's so wide this street that we have even a parking.
I'm really sad.
Wow.
I bet it is.
Always in the village life. The center is the main square, and this is the main square of the village. Just with the cafe Neo. And actually now comes the narrowest part of the village.
Good Lord.
And a dog. We have dogs everywhere, yeah. And it's not just the thing that it's actually narrow, but it has this curve in it, which the bus doesn't have. You see, if you live here, probably you think twice once you open your shutters. Maybe around midnight.
Oh.
Yeah, you can
that
see
is
some
close.
scratches on the houses. They are from the mirror, because over there the bus is actually the widest. So. Okay.
And now we're off.
So we're fine.
That was it. Piece of cake, yeah. Okay. Hello. Yeah, probably he was just trying to come out. Now he's going to go back.
Good.
Ooh. Yeah. But there are many.
I parked my car and if he doesn't left.
You get one of those little smart cars, Pat.
You see what a busy village.
It's very busy. Look at all the bikers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For a moped.
We still haven't reached the other traffic lights. I'm going to tell you where it is. Actually. And you see, after we pass the village, we have another 30 seconds and we are going to get off. Now the place which offers this snack and ouzo, water, some wine if you want to, it is located in a really, really nice spot. The view is going to be breathtaking. It's also going to be a very good restroom facility, right, before we leave. Or probably because there are another 2 buses coming. You know, if we try to avoid a big line in front of the restrooms, probably it's better to go in the first few minutes, right? We are going to spend here about 40 minutes. Alright, so here is the other traffic lights. Let's make it around 45. Alright, so we are going to leave from here. We are going to leave from here 12:40. Let's make it 40. 12:40. We are going to leave from here. Alright? 12:40. We need to walk upstairs to the first floor. The second they are going to inform us, but there is also an elevator. Whoever has walking difficulties, alright, you can use the elevator. So this is the place. Now we are going to see where we will be able to park. Mare da fika figo, next zero, bla bla. La torre.
We didn't make it first.
It's nothing but jeeps.
From the fish egg with potato, olive oil, garlic.
Which I thought tasty.
That's what I said to you.
And then
fish egg.
piro pita, cheese pie.
Yeah, the
The
cheese
cucumber, tomato probably. Okay, so that was the snack. Now we are going to see another village which is still pretty much involved in the whole tourism business. That's gonna be the last really busy village up in this area, and then we are going to enjoy mainly the natural beauty of the island. So we are going to see some more villages, but they are going to be really tiny, and you are going to be really surprised how remote people they live here in such a small island where there are actually no distances, right? And then, as I promised, we are going to see a few things about the olive trees. So this is the village, or actually there are 2 villages here, village of Macrades and the village of Crini. You will see there are some souvenir shops and some restaurants. And from here, actually, there is a tiny road which can lead you to a big fortress which is on the western coastline. It is called Angelocastro. We are going to see it later on from a certain distance. It's really a very picturesque spot. And if you want to approach it, you know, next time when you come here and you spend here a week, just to know that you have to go here to the left. Right? Yeah, I'm sure you will remember that. Okay. So, olive trees. We opened a new chapter. Do you think you can recognize an olive tree by now?
Yes.
Good. Now we have, as I mentioned, over 4 million, so basically, really, they are everywhere. The olive tree, well, actually, no, I'm going to start in a different way. On the world, there are 2 big families of olive trees. There is the European family and the Asian family. But there are 600 different species, which is an amazingly big number. I never believed, actually, before I figured out that there are so many different olives. I always believe there is a small one and a big one. But apparently there are another 598. So the one that we have here on the island, it belongs to the European family. Okay, and the olive, what we have is really small, about 1 centimeters, really tiny, like the one that you had on your snack. Now that's the Corfu variety, but as probably you've tasted it, it has a very strong, very characteristic taste.
Yes.
So the olive oil that we gain from these olives, they are very, very good. All right. But about the oil, we are going to say a few things a bit later on. Now the olive tree is a very slow tree, which means that if you plant one, you need at least 40, 50 years to have a good amount, a good quantity of olive on the tree.
Wow.
So basically you are going to provide income, one way or another, for your children. Yeah, so to provide income for the next generation. Now, the olive tree will not give you olive every year. Only every other year, every second year. Yeah, that was a big, very interesting. Why? Because they are in blossom in May, April. The flowers, they have a very strong, sweet smell. The flowers, they are very tiny. We would say white, but it's actually a very, very light yellow. And from the flowers, slowly, we can see the tiny olives. They have reached already by now the size. By November, they have reached already the normal size. From now on, they are going to turn to black. All right? And we are going to harvest them the end of December. The biggest period, the longest period is in January. And sometimes it can last until the beginning of February, which means that the same tree can't be in blossom again by March. So simply they are just relaxing for a year. All right? But they live very long life. So probably that's the key. Relax.
Now that is close.
Which means that most of the trees,
Yeah.
most of the trees that we have here on the island, they are just a couple of 100 years old. 2, 3, 4, 5. We have few 700, 800 years old. But if you go to south of Greece, like for example on the island of Crete, or if you go even further down to the south, for example to Israel, you can find olive trees that they are 1,500 years old or 2,000 years old, and you know, not just one that they show to every single tourist that look, we have one tree, we just do that. There are many, all right? Now, in older times on Corfu, the people, they never trimmed the trees. Probably they were like, it takes forever to grow. If I cut them, I'm never going to see fruit in my life. So they just let the trees to grow, and the result, of course, was that they became really tall. And it made really difficult to harvest the olives, because the majority of the olives, they were on the top of the tree where is the sunshine. So what happened is that they started to put all those nets, what you can see, under the tree. Of course, first they got rid of the wild weeds and vegetation, they clean the ground under the tree, and they put down all those black nets, and they wait for the olives to fall. And then the only thing you have to do is just to collect the olives from the nets. But you have to do it on a daily basis, because if you leave them on the ground for too many days, and then you start the pressing procedure, then the olive oil will not have the same quality. Then as you press them out after falling straight away. And of course, quality is what we want in an olive oil. The best quality of olive oil is the so-called extra virgin of olive oil, which has the lowest acidity, and that's the key in the quality. The lowest the acidity, the best the quality. So the extra virgin of olive oil has acidity from 0.1 up to 0.4%. So you can tell that it's really, really low. And the next quality is the virgin olive oil, which has a little bit higher acidity. It can go up to 0.8. All right. Now we are going to carry on in a minute with this whole olive issue, but soon after this curve, we will be able to see the Angelo Castro, this big fortress which I mentioned that was protecting the western coastline. If you take a look to your right now on the top of the hill, you can actually see what left from this Angelo Castro, which was built in the 13th century. Right? There was this nobleman from the neighbor opposite Greek mainland, and his name was Angelos. And his name was Angelos, and that's why they call the fortress Angelo Castro. And you can see this beautiful green blanket that covers the island. So just carrying on with the olives and with the olive oil, if you ever have the opportunity to taste the olive oil before buying, it probably do. If I can give you a good advice, I would tell you that first of all, make sure that it's not really, really cold, but it's also not very hot. They say that the ideal temperature is 21 Celsius degrees. It will leave a bit like a burning taste in your mouth and in your throat. The main thing that it shouldn't leave a burning taste as you swallow it in your stomach, for example, right? If you buy a good olive oil, make sure that you are going to keep it in a dark place in your kitchen. It shouldn't have any sunshine, not any light. In a cool place, as I mentioned, it's 21 Celsius degrees, the ideal temperature. And of course, if you once opened the bottle, it's better to use it at least within a month, all right? Because the oxygen, again, is not something that really helps to keep its quality. Well, the best thing also we have to mention, if you eat, you consume, you have an intake of raw olive oil. You will not cook with that. Or if you cook with olive oil, before actually you start your meal, you should pour some fresh olive oil on top, because that's how you can gain the best the vitamins, nutrition, everything that you have to have from the olive oil. You have to eat it raw. Right? And of course the olive oil is in a way the key of a long life. Maybe you have heard about the Mediterranean diet. You know, it's the way that you can reach 150 years long quality life. And Mediterranean diet says that what you have to do, make sure that you have an intake of 20 milligrams of olive oil per day, which is actually like a spoon. Alright? As I mentioned, raw. You have to have one portion of salad every day. So basically, the olive oil is the amount that you would pour on your salad. All right, so this is done. You have to eat one fruit per day. You have to eat fish once, or if you can do it 2 times per week, it's even better. Once a week, bean, any kind of beans, whatever you like, the white, the red, the blue, the green, whichever you prefer. Chicken once a week, and red meat only every 15 days. Alright? And also Mediterranean diet says that you have to drink 1 glass of wine every day. I'm not joking, really, that's a written rule. They say that the red wine is better. But in case you prefer white wine, still I don't think you should be worried. Maybe you are not going to live 150, only 140 years.
Yeah,
okay.
smashed windows.
That's really just a detail. Alright? So if you follow all those steps, nothing and nobody can stop you to live a happy long life. And soon we are going to reach a really good spot. We still have a few seconds to go. But we are going to reach a spot where actually we are going to be able to see the north part of the island and also the east of Corfu. Huh? No, I'm just telling to you. So soon, yes, we are going to get a little bit higher. Whatever you are going to see on the left is the north part of Corfu, then the Ionian Sea, and opposite is Albania. Alright? So over there is the Albanian coastline, what you can see on the other side of the sea. And what we are going to see on the right soon, that's going to be Corfu town. And around Corfu town, there is always a big hub, an island. And from the island to the right, you can see the port, and you can see Corfu down here. So that's the eastern coastline of the island. On the left is the north, on the right is the east. So we can understand that really we are on an island, because there's everywhere sea, so much water around. And as we are driving on your left, you are going to see also 3 islands. That's actually the border line. They still belong to Greece, they still belong to Corfu, but behind the island is Albania, right? So we are really up in the northwestern corner of the country. We are just on the edge. Don't take a step forward. And actually, I still have a nice story about the olive tree. It's a little bit, again, Greek mythology, but this is one of my favorite stories, so let me just tell you. And actually, this particular story is about Zeus. He was a big boss, the god of the gods. He was a famous womanizer, you know, but in this story, actually, he turned into an old beggar because he wanted to see how friendly his people were in his kingdom. He wanted to see the hospitality. So as an old beggar, he was wandering all over in the country, and one day he found a house in the middle of an olive grove. He knocked the door, and the door was opened by an old couple. They invited him inside. Of course, they couldn't recognize who he was. They just saw an old man. But they invited him inside. They gave him something to drink, something to eat. And because it was really late at night, they also insisted the stranger to spend the night there. And next morning, when they woke up, by surprise, it was not an old beggar in the house, but Zeus himself. So Zeus explained to the old couple why he did what he did. And because they were so friendly, he was going to fulfill one of their wishes. So he asked the couple, what do you want? Do you want to be young again? Or maybe you would like to be rich? Or maybe both, young and rich? The old couple was thinking for a second, and they said, you know what, Zeus? We were always poor, and we never had problem with that. And we grew up, but that's life. There is just one thing that we are a little bit afraid of, that once one of us is going to stay alone. Can you help with this? Zeus was thinking for a second, and then he answered back, oh yes, don't worry, leave it on me. So in a few years' time, when the minute came, the old couple passed away in the same moment. And just to make sure that they will be always together, Zeus turned them into an olive tree. That's why the olive tree has a huge tree trunk with 2 bigger branches growing up from the tree. One is the wife, and the other is the husband.
Wow.
Oh, I know.
Good mythology.
But can I be a little bit naughty?
What?
Well, I need to hear a loud yes.
Yes.
Okay, now we hear. There are some trees with a 3rd branch. What do you think? Who is the 3rd branch?
Child.
Very nice, but not naughty at all.
A grandmother.
Zeus? No. The mother-in-law.
Oh.
Oh.
I love it.
So that's about the olive trees and about the olive oil. Now, definitely we had to dedicate some minute to the wine, since it's also a very important pillar of the Mediterranean diet. There is, there are so many different wine and variety grapes all along the country, but there is one one specific wine that you can find only in Greece. Maybe some of you have heard about that, maybe some of you have tried already. If I tell you the word Retsina.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay. Did you like it?
Yeah, I did very much.
You did?
Yes.
Wow. I'm just telling you because it's a big surprise. Most of the non-Greek people, they don't really enjoy Retsina.
I like it.
The Greek people, they love Retsina. And now what is Retsina? Retsina is a white wine, very dry white wine. And actually the name Retsina is deriving from the Greek word retsini, which means pine resin.
Oh,
Because what happens that they
Very
put
bitter.
pine resin in the wine during the fermentation procedure, and from this pine resin, the wine gets a really
tart.
strange smell and taste. Right? Since I always encourage people to try new things, I mean that's the point of traveling. Since you are going to have some time in town, or maybe you are going to have some other stops during the cruise where you are going to be in Greece, try to put in, in one day at some point, 15 minutes where you sit down in the taverna and you order a Retina wine and try it. I mean, it's still something unique. In worst case, you will not like it, but at least it's going to be your own experience. And who knows, and maybe you are going to fall in love with it. Actually, I've noticed that many Greek people, they drink it with Sprite. Yeah, cheating. But they try. Mmm.
Thanks. God, thanks a lot. So let's all go together.
Yeah, he's impatient.
Wow. You could have waited.
No.
And now again, just remind you whatever we can see on the right, that's north of Corfu and opposite Albania. Yeah, very close. Actually, if we would have the opportunity to drive down all along the coastline, the eastern coastline, and the shortest distance between Corfu and Albania is only 1 mile. There is like a channel at some point up in the east, up in the northeastern coastline, where the distance is only 1 mile, so it's really, really close. I don't know, maybe you remember that in the 1990s, I mean, we know about Albania, that it was a communist country, a really strict communist regime with Enver Hoxha. But already at the 1980s, end of the 1980s, 1990s, they opened a little bit after Enver Hoxha passed away. But in the 1990s, there was this pyramid game. People, they invested the savings that they had, that little bit of a savings that they had, and of course most of them, they lost it. So it was a huge problem in the 1990s, Albania. And many Albanians, they were just swimming from Albania to Corfu, because it's not really a distance, you see. So some of them, they settled down here on the island. Some of them, they were working here for a couple of years, and then they moved on, going to basically all around the world. Albania is a really strange country in terms that there are 3 million people living in the country, in Albania, but there are another 10 million Albanians that they live all around the world except Albania. And here again, we can see the eastern coastline just straight ahead, and as we are going to turn, it's going to be on your right. You see the islands, and on its right, you can see actually the port where there are 2 ships. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Good.
There's a group.
I know, I would love to know how much it costs to buy one and do it up. It'd be kind of alright. If it is or something else.
On the right, what you can see is the only plain area. Only plain area of the island is a valley. It is called the Valley of Ropa. Surprisingly, there is no any agricultural activity in this area, but we have our golf course down there, which is, they say, is a very good golf course. And we have, of course, a very small percentage of the tourism, but they come only just to spend a week or 2 weeks. And it's really nice environment, small bungalows, really pretty, very nice environment. And now what you can see on your right is the western coastline. Good. Basically, more or less, it's Palokasica, just straight ahead where we've been. And actually, before we reach the town, I'm going to say a few things about the local history, and I promise you to tell you also something about Saint Spiridon, who is a patron saint of Corfu. So I'm going to tell you what it means and how he became actually the patron saint of the island. But at the very beginning of our tour, where we just met, I told you that I might, if I have the opportunity and time, to say a few things about local customs and traditions that might be interesting. And I think actually all those stories they make a place really interesting. I would like to tell you a few things. And I would like to tell you actually in a way how I experience this, you know, being a member of a Greek family, coming from a very different background. So I told you already that when I came here I couldn't speak any Greek. With most of the people I could speak in English, but not with the older generation. Of course, like my mother and my father-in-law. And when I started to know a little bit my Greek family, that was a time when my sister-in-law, she gave birth to her first daughter. So I went to visit her in the hospital, you know, giving the best wishes that you can, and it's such a happy moment. And for me, it was an automatic question to ask the name of the baby, which I did in English from my sister-in-law. And she answered back with a huge smile, and she said, Beba, which is in Greek, baby girl. I said, thank you very much. That's a very useful word, but I mean, what is the name of the baby? I mean, this baby. And she looked at me and she answered back this time in English, and she said, baby. I said, yes, I know, I got it. But I'm Zita, and she is... no answer. And then my back then only boyfriend came closer to me and she said, stop asking, because however you ask, the answer is going to be the same. And I said, what do you mean? And he said, we are going to call her baby. I said, this is not a name. We don't identify somebody like that, woman, man, and baby. And he said, yes, we know that, but we are going to call her baby until we baptize her. Ah, I said, okay, now that makes sense. So when are we going to baptize her? And he said, a year and a half. I was like, seriously, we are going to call her baby for 1.5 years? And he said, yes, that's what usually how the tradition goes. I said, okay. Let's see how it's going to work out. To be honest, in the first few months, it was normal. I mean, I didn't feel any difference because it was a newborn baby and he was saying the baby anyway. But when she was about 7 months, 8 months, and on, 10, 11 months, I don't know, I missed the name. For me, it was so weird to talk about somebody as baby. How is the baby? And so I asked so many questions, so many times. I don't know, baby 1, baby 2? By then, usually you are going to have the baptism, except if they are coming so soon to play. I don't know, baby 1, baby 2, maybe A, baby B. Anyway, so I was, my niece was about 10, 11 months, I was approaching my sister-in-law, and I said, if it brings you good luck, bad luck, or if it's not allowed, or I don't know, I understand, but if you have decided the name, please, would you tell me, please? Because I missed the name. And she looked at me and she said, oh, we know the name. I said, that's great. And what is going to be? And she said, it's going to be our mother-in-law's name, of course. And then suddenly, like the bulb in the cartoon, of course. So that's why we have so many Katerina and Nikos in the family, like my mother and father-in-law, because it's a big family, like all the Greek families, they're big. There are 4 children. So all of them, they have 3 or 4 children. So the majority of the family, they were Nikos and Katerina. I just didn't, I don't know, my mistake. I didn't put 1 + 1 makes 2. And of course that was a time when this movie came out, My Big Fat Greek Wedding. Do you remember when the American family meets the Greek family and the Greek father says that, let me introduce to you my family, Nikos, 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 and Nikki. That's important because that's the female version of Nikos. So that's the thing, what happens, that the children, they get their name after the grandparents. Which means that within a family, one name is repeated so many times. So you never know about whom they are talking about. It's so confusing. I mean, you have to identify somebody not by the name, but also by the mother and by the father name, because that's how you can be sure that actually they are talking about that particular person. And of course, it means as well that that name days and names in general. The names, they have a huge importance, and name days are celebrated more than birthdays. Because there is a spectacular day in a year, which is written in the agenda. It's all year the same. Every year is the same. So if you live in Greece, after a while you are going to learn by heart actually the calendar. You know that all the Nikos and Nicoletta, because everything, you know, female version, male version, is celebrated 6th of December. Katerina, 25th of November, and even though Yanis, like John, 7th of January, you just know they all calendar by heart, really. And of course it means that actually you don't need to inform people that, okay, I'm going to make a party because I have a name day. They will come. The only thing you have to do is just open your door. They are going to bring the sweets and the drinks. Just smile and say thank you. That's it. But if you have birthday, and especially before Facebook, when we didn't know when certain people they have their birthday, you needed to invite somebody because it's something more personal. It's not something that everybody knows, and maybe that's why names are or name days they are more popular and more celebrated because that's what everybody knows. See? And what funny thing was, actually, I don't know how it is in your country, but in Hungary, whenever we are receiving a gift, we need to open it at the same moment and, you know, appreciate it really. Big smile, that's what I always wanted. In Greece, they never open it. They say thank you very much and they just put it in somewhere in the corner of the room. And so I said my friend that, you're never going to open it? He said, of course I'm going to open it, but everybody's gone. So I don't need to pretend that I like it. And I just go and change it. You know, they don't even need to give you a special card when you buy a present. And if you go there, in fact, you have a gift that you don't like, you know from the bag to which shop to go. They are not going to ask you. They said, okay, I have this. They will tell you how much money you can. So it's a good way to figure out how much money they spent on you. And so you know how much you can exchange the that I love. This part I love. That's my favorite part actually. Living here. So so that's about the names and about name days. The other thing that might be also interesting, but it's going to be in a way a help to you too, is I'm often asked about souvenirs. What is a good authentic souvenir to take from Corfu, which is useful and can be really really good idea? And usually I recommend olive oil soap. You know, because it's something that is really good. Olive oil is not just for internal use but also external use. And olive oil soap probably is the purest product that you can have, right? They are produced by small family businesses, so you will support all those small family businesses, which means it's authentic. It's good for everybody. Allergy, sensitive skin, eczema, even better. It is small. It's not really fragile, so you don't need to be extra careful with that. And it's very cheap. We are talking about 80 cents, €1. Sometimes you can find even a pack of 6, which is, I think, really the ideal souvenir because you just put it in your suitcase, and even in case you forgot about somebody, you can have a spare olive oil soap in your luggage. The other thing, which I also recommend, is a blue eye. Some of you maybe have noticed that I have a tiny blue eye on my bracelet here. Yeah. And I don't know if Statis has a blue eye anywhere on the car. I can't see any blue eye. And this blue eye actually provides some kind of a protection against the evil eye. Huh? It is say a nice compliment to my friend, like, I love your new bag. And she's not wearing a blue eye. I have to toof toof toof. I'm just mentioning this in case you see people in the town spitting on each other. Stay cool. They just try to protect each other, alright? So yeah, all these things.
Greek wedding.
Yes.
All these things, they can happen only in Greece. Of course, wherever you are in the Mediterranean region, even in Turkey, in Egypt, even Israel, there is something similar. Or in Central America, Latin America, they have something similar.
The lamb.
And ladies and gentlemen, we are getting closer to the town. This is the road where we started our tour, remember? Where actually we have two lines, or lanes for the cars. So I think it's about high time to say a few things about the local history. I will try not to detail it, but I think still, and actually it's a part of a foundation, that we need to say a few things about the local history. See, wherever you are in Greece, history always starts a couple of thousand years ago. So in our case, it's 2,700 years ago. This is the time when the very, very first settlement was founded on the island. And you can imagine this ancient settlement like all the ancient settlements along the country. Beautiful big temples, huge building blocks that they were using to construct all those buildings. By the 6th century BC, it became one of the most important ports in the Mediterranean region, and it's mainly because of the location of Corfu. We are in the heart of the Mediterranean, so all the navy routes or trading routes that they were going from the west to the east or from to the east to the west, they needed to have a safe port somewhere in the middle, and this is what ancient Corfu used to be. In the 3rd century BC, the Roman legion occupied ancient Corfu, and what Romans they were doing wherever they were building aqueducts and baths. So of course, even Corfu has ruins and archaeological sites that they are from this period, like for example Roman bath and aqueducts in certain parts of the island. And now we are turning page, going to AD. In the 4th century AD, this big Roman Empire was far too big to be able to control. So it fell into two parts. One part was the so-called Western Roman Empire with its capital Rome. And the other part was the Eastern Roman Empire with a freshly built fortified city that was called Constantinople. After this division, the whole Greek territory belonged to the Eastern Roman Empire, and it was of course a time when the first early Christian churches they were built. In the 6th century, and from now on of course we are 80, people from Central Europe, the Goths, they moved down from Central Europe towards the Mediterranean, and they occupied ancient Corfu. And actually what they did is that they destroyed it. From the 70,000 people that this ancient city had as population, only just few hundred people they survived this devastating catastrophe. These few hundred people were the ones actually that leaving the ancient settlement, the area of this ancient settlement, they were looking for a safer spot, they were looking for a better location, and actually they settled down in the area where we are going now, where we have Corfu town. In the 6th century, the town had 355 houses. That was the size of Corfu in the 6th century. And now we are turning several pages, going to 1386, end of the 14th century. One of the most important periods started in the local history, and that was a time when the Venetian Republic occupied Corfu. Venice was a trading republic, you see. I'm sure you know the name Marco Polo, who was one of the first from Venice who was actually traveling to China even back then. So Venice needed Corfu as a port. They didn't want to pay taxes for using the port. They wanted to collect taxes from the other ships for using the port. So in 1386, Venice occupied Corfu, and they could keep it for over 400 years. Of course, during that period, it was a big threat in Europe. The Ottoman Turks, they occupied the biggest part of Greece, and they could keep it for over 400, almost 500 years. But never Corfu. They were trying many times, but they could never succeed to occupy Corfu Island. See here, again, just if you look to your left, you can have a beautiful view. We have two islands. The island which is the left side island is Lazaretto. It used to be the quarantine island. You know, for example, in this Venetian period, all the ships, they needed to stop here, spending 4 days before they could enter into the town. Make sure that they don't carry any epidemic diseases. And the other island, which is the right side island, that's the Vidos Island. That was a prison island. Apparently they needed to spend more than 4 days there. And from the islands to the right, you can see where the port area is. And opposite behind the islands, what you can see is the Greek mainland. So just returning to the history and to finish the history. So the Turks, they were trying many times to occupy Corfu, but they could never succeed. But what the Turks couldn't do, Napoleon could, although he did differently. In 1797, he occupied Venice. And that was the end of the Venetian occupation here on the island. And Corfu could welcome the French. But it didn't last for long, only for 2 years. What happened that the big countries in Europe, they were all scared of Napoleon. Everybody was united with everybody in order to put him aside. And all those changes that Europe was going through, we can understand on the local history as well. Because after the French, the Russian came. After the Russian, French again. And after the French, the British. And all these changes, they were within 15 years, right? So in 1814, Corfu fell into the hands of the British Crown. And again, it's an important period because it lasted for 50 years, which is quite a long period, even in history, until 1864, when Corfu united with Greece. So what we need to keep from this really brief historical description is that what we can feel on the island is a huge Italian influence, a huge Italian heritage. Like the colors on the houses, this beige, the yellowish, the terracotta that we were talking about that before, they are the same colors that you can find in Venice. I mean, that's definitely the Venetian part of the local history, right? In the town, what you can feel, except this Venetian part, is this little bit of a French and British aroma, see? Like Corfu is the only place in Greece where they play cricket. Nowhere else in the country there are cricket teams, only on Corfu. And Corfu is the only place in the country where you can find ginger beer. And both of them, they are from the British beer, you see. And actually I think it's really good. Of course, it's a ginger ale. It doesn't have any alcohol. It's like a very sweet lemonade, but because of the ginger, a little bit spicy. Again, and even in the local cuisine, the local gastronomy, we have this Italian influence. I mean, is there any chance that there were 400 years here, the Venetian, and we don't have tomato sauce and pasta? No, right? So the classical Greek food that you know, probably like souvlaki, like tzatziki, Greek salad, moussaka. What else comes to your mind if you hear Greek food, Greek music, Greek cuisine? Baklava. Yeah, so we all have this, but we have some other dishes, other specialties, like pastizzata. That's a classical Sunday brunch, the Sunday meal, which is like a stew from beef. Originally they were cooking it from rooster, by the way, but nowadays mainly from beef, or if you can find veal, it's even better, more moisture, in tomato sauce. But they put spices in this tomato sauce like cinnamon, clove, and allspice, and from that it gets a really nice, it's a very nice meal. And of course it is served always with pasta. That's why it is called pastizzata. Alright? Yeah, sorry, Stanis is telling me, I forgot to mention that it has also onion. Of course it has onion. You know, he could handle whatever I was saying all day. But
he hasn't said a single thing to her
not
all
a joke,
day.
eh?
And he's like, you forgot
About
the onion.
we don't make a
So
joke.
obviously it's his favourite.
Stanis, do you put also some wine in the pastizzata? Stanis, que crasillota ma idea with
You
pastizzata?
said either one with the
Yeah.
eye and the
Yeah.
lips.
No wine. Good.
Following each other around
Ah, the wine after.
Rituals.
Okay.
They're all there.
So far, let's just summarize. What I have recommended to try, it was the ginger beer, since you did with the kumquat liquor and Retsina. But we have something else, which is a Corfu thing. This is our beer, Corfu beer. which is really good. Non-pasteurized, non-filtered. It expires within 3 months, alright? And I think it's really, really delicious. So in case you want to sit down somewhere to enjoy a nice drink, just take into consideration those things. Okay, we are right next to the port area. We are heading to the town.
Oh, I'm down the
No, she said we were going to a small little town to walk around.
And here, of course, you are going to see many, many bikes, scooters, mopeds. You are not going to see as many helmets, though.
No, I'm good.
Even that it's something that you must wear. You know how much is the fine if the police stops you for not wearing helmet? 360 euro.
Oh,
Plus loss of a driving license for 2 months. Yes, serious.
That's the way to do it.
But it's not too many. There are not too many policemen. No.
looks it, doesn't it?
Okay, and now we are entering in the old town of Corfu. So the whole Corfu town has a population of about 40,000 people, but actually it has two sides. So one side is the old town of Corfu, this is where we are going to be, and the other part is the new town. In the old town there are about 7,000 people living, and the rest of course is in the newer part. What you can see on your left is the back of a fortress which is called New Fortress. It was built in the 17th century by the Venetians. That's why you can see the symbol of the Venetian Republic on your left. The winged lion of St. Mark is holding an open book, the Bible, right? And what we have on the right side, the other massive wall, it is the city wall.
Nope, missed it.
That was built also by the Venetians in the same period. It was encircling around the town. So whatever now we have within the area, in this side of the city wall, we know that it belongs to the old town. And whatever is in the other side, a bit further down, that's the part of the new town of Corfu. We are going to drive until the old fortress. And actually the area which is located between those two fortresses, this is what we call today Old Town of Corfu. Again on the left you will be able to see the winged lion, St. Mark. And by the way, the new fortress, it is still partly used as a Greek Navy's base. And just like every city, even Corfu, even that it's a quite small city, has a standard problem with traffic. There are far too many cars. And of course in the old town of Corfu is not open for the cars, it's all pedestrian area, which means that all the roads that they are around the old town of Corfu, they are the only way to approach the old town and the only place actually where you can park your car. But as we are just keep on moving slowly though, but we are keep on moving on the right, you will be able to see our farmers market. You see the fish, vegetable, fruit market is going to be just after the bed on your right hand side, which is open every day except Sundays from 7:30 until 1:30, 2 o'clock. If you are interested more the fish part, probably it's better to come here early morning, because then you can get really the fresh fish. And of course, even in the central part of the market, of the local market, there is a Cafe Neo. to sit down for a cup of coffee is something that it's really important for all the Mediterranean people, I believe. Sometimes it means only just 10-15 minutes, but it means that let's sit down and let's talk, let's socialize. You know, and drinking coffee is just the best opportunity for that. Of course, except the standard coffees like espresso, cappuccino, Americano, you can find even cold coffees, which are very, very popular drink in the summer season when it's really hot, like the freddo cappuccino, the freddo espresso, which is a nice and refreshing drink in the summer months.
Is it cat?
Ginger puss.
Mm-hmm.
I do like ginger cats. They don't like cats. They'll hunters be very sweet. I think it just depends on the cat.
Mm-hmm.
1:30.
Yeah, I know. We won't get any time to do anything else. I wanted to get through some.
I think here's where we get the free time to walk around.
Maybe.
Because it's where the markets are, what she said.
This is fish markets. There's all the graffiti here. Reminds me of Egypt and all those
India.
places. India. Yes.
Yes.
That colour and
Dilapidated. Tiny little car.
yep. Serves a purpose.
Reminds me of the
You don't
Mr.
need it any
Bean.
wider with the small streets.
You wouldn't want to have many kids.
Right along beside it.
Oh, this is going to be a while. Scooters just zipping in and out. They always do though.
Yeah. Yes, no matter what.
There's a rebel without a helmet.
So you see whatever you can see now, except the market behind that is all the new part of the town. Over there, the shops, they are mainly for demand of the locals. They have certain opening hours, which means that they open around 9 o'clock, and they are going to close around 2, because it is siesta time. You know, they go home to have lunch, lay down a little bit, relax, and they are going to open the shops again around 5:30, 6 o'clock until 9. In the old town of Corfu, where we are going to have our time, over there the shops, they are open from the morning till late evening. They don't close for the middle of the day, because most of them, they work only in the summer season, alright, so they have only just these few months to work, and of course it wouldn't be a very clever idea to close, to go home to have lunch, 2 o'clock. So over there are many shops. You can find whatever you are looking for, and I think you are going to feel clearly that it's not just a classical Greek town, but a cosmopolitan town. You will feel this Mediterranean atmosphere, the Venetians, the French and the British, definitely you will feel the presence they had here. And from here you can tell that it's a busy town, very busy town. Everybody's parking and driving and walking wherever it's good for them. On the left you can see the fresh fish. And actually,
I
we are
know,
pretty much
right?
driving on the X borderline, which means that this is the area where this old city wall used to be, which means that once we are going to reach the this junction, we are going to turn to the right, but if you look back to your left, you will see where the old town of Corfu is, where the pedestrian zone is. And usually this time of the day, the schools, they are just, the students, they just finished school, so it's time for them to get home. And they start 8:15 in the morning.
Still 8:15 to 1.
They learn quicker.
I like that.
So you see here on the left, you can see on the right, you can see the newer part. Hundreds of bikes, scooters.
Yeah, this is quite the scooter.
And since I mentioned the school, I'm often asked anyway, how is the education system? And you have to start compulsory to participate in the educational system at the age of 5 to go for a year of kindergarten. Of course, if you want to, there is opportunity to go to send your kids even before, but from 5 years compulsory, 1 year kindergarten. The elementary schools, they are from the age of 6, and it's for 6 years. And then we have the lower high school, which is for 3 years. And then there is a higher high school, which is for another 3 years. So it's 6 plus 3 plus 3. They finish at the age of 18. And of course, if they want, they can carry on studying, going to university. Even the island of Corfu has a university where there are musicians, interpreters, and historians studying. It's quite a good university. It's called the Ionian University. If you wish to study something else, something different, of course, you have to leave the island, going other parts of the country, and the mainland, or other islands where you might find the university that you are looking for. And you see, we are just getting deeper into the busy Corfu town.
There's a school.
Well, if there was a policeman right now here, ooh, he could collect quite a good money. Only just for the helmets. And this road where we are going to enter, here we are going to turn to the left, is the avenue, one of the main parts of the newer Corfu town. The post offices, the banks, they're actually in the other end. They are located mainly here, so it's quite central part for the locals mainly. And we are going to end up in such a nice spot, which is going to provide a so nice entrance and enter to the town of Corfu. It's a seaside road, which has lots of cafes, lots of tavernas, beautiful view, even swimming opportunities. There are actually many people living here in the town, and they just walk down here to the beach and they just start jumping into the water. As I mentioned, until the end of October it's still really nice, pleasant and warm, but we have lots of winter swimmers. And whenever we have a sunny day in December, January, they just run down to the beach. We just call the winter swimmers penguins because it's not that hot anyway. And you see, this is the Bay of Gareta,
Oh wow.
opposite the Greek mainland. But the crown of this whole big bay is the massive fortress that you can see just straight ahead. This is the so-called Old Fortress. Alright, so that was built again by the Venetians in the 16th century. And actually you see the fortress has two peaks, or in Greek, two Corfu. And the word Corfu is actually the origin of the name Corfu. You can imagine many hundred years ago when the ships they were approaching the island, the first thing that the sailors they could see and they could identify the island were the two peaks of the fortress. So they were just telling about the two Corfu, and slowly became the name of the island, Corfu. And we are actually going to park just in front of the old fortress. This is where studies.
They're probably used to it by now. They don't know any different. So when they do it and they eat nothing but crap, and it's like, you know, they just,
one of these trips.
that's all that they're given, so. No, I was heading back. I'm heading home. You're fine, you don't have to do more.
There's a pussycat.
Get a birdie over there.
This St. George and St. Michael Palace, and then it's going to be a beautiful view as soon as we reach its back. Maybe, did you have the opportunity to try something? Maybe the ginger beer, Corfu beer? I heard somebody try the Corfu beer. Was it nice? It's a very good beer, yeah, I think it's quite good. Very pleased. What can we do with all the traditional drinks there? Liquor and beers. Okay. And on the left, what you can see is all the residential area. Of the town here, the neighborhoods they are called Campiello, Muraglia. I'm just mentioning these names again, just to show the huge Italian roots that we have. And now, excuse me, if you take a look, go out to your right. You can see the old fortress from a different angle, and you can see the Corfu Sailing Club, which is located down there. And again, opposite the Greek mainland. But if you take a look up to the north, the mountains, they belong to Albania.
The water, that is.
And here on the right, the Pidos Island, which was the Pidos Island. You see this already from a distance. Oh, and somebody is swimming in the crystal clear water.
This would be nice to go here.
And you can see also the new port where the big ships are. And we've seen the back of the new fortress, we've seen the top of the new fortress, so now we are going to see the whole building soon. And there you go, voila. So this is the new fortress. This was built at the 17th century, in the 17th century by the Venetians, and now we can understand, I think, the whole structure of the town. And you see here on the right, this is the old port. We mentioned also this thing. I really do hope that you felt in the town that it's a living town. I mean, it's part of our life. It's not just something that we are trying to, let's say, sell to the tourists, but it's also part of our life. And you can smell the food in the air, life in the air. It's really a charming little town. And probably that's why also, and because of the historical and architectural value, that it's on the UNESCO's World Heritage List since 2009. And here you can see the old, smaller and bigger fishing boats as well. And where there are the bigger boats, that's the new port. We have, of course, ferry connection going to the opposite mainland. The ferries, they need about 1 hour and 40 minutes to reach the nearest big port on the mainland, which is called Ikumenita. And from there, by car, you can be in Athens roughly 4.5, 6 hours. Alright, just to understand distances. Of course, being so close to Albania, it means that we have the daily connection to go to Sant Saranda, which is the nearest big port area in Albania. The boats, they need about 50 minutes to reach that area. And we have, in the summer season, we have ferry connection going to south of Italy, Brindisi and Bari. And the ferries, they need 8 hours to reach the port of Corfu. And that's why we have so many Italian tourists in July, second half of July, and all August. Because within 8 hours they can come here with a car, with those big ferries. And that's the lovely period on the island with, 110 Fahrenheit, with all the Greek and Italian drivers on the same road to die for, really. Although we have fantastic drivers here on the island, at least I can tell that I respect so much our bus drivers, because to drive on those really narrow streets with all these traffic, wow. So getting closer to the new port, it means that we are just about ending our tour. Did you have a good time? Yes. Thank you very, very much. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, indeed. If you don't mind, I would like to ask you to put your hands together for our driver as well. It wasn't too bad for the first time, huh? Today, yeah. So anyway, on the way back, we are not allowed to take you to the port. We need to drop you off at the terminal building because you have to go through the security control, So you have to show your ship card and, all the things that probably you do in every single port. But as you walk through the terminal building and you come out in the port area, there are those port shuttle buses, those blue and white shuttle buses, that they are coming back and forth terminals and the gangway of your ship. Alright, so you don't need to walk. They are coming all the time back and forth. I'm just mentioning that in case you walk through and there is not the shuttle bus there, just wait. In the next 30 seconds there must be coming the next one. Alright? I would like to ask you to make sure that don't leave anything on the bus. Alright? Make sure that you have all your liquors and